Hello, everyone. This is Helen Folks with the Department of Education, and I'm starting out today just to provide a couple of reminders about upcoming trainings. There will be a child nutrition emergency operating cost during COVID-19 training on Tuesday, April the 27th at 1:00 p.m. Also, there will be a production record and whole grain training on April 28th, 2021. And there will be a hurricane preparedness training on Tuesday, May the 4th, 2021. And last, a nutrition support monthly Zoom call will be provided on May 6th, 2021. Please make sure that you register for these on LouisianaFitKids.com. And now I'd like to open micro purchase and small purchase procurement to Babette Lanius, who will be talking through this training today. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today we're going to discuss small procurement. Micro purchase we're going to talk about first. Micro purchasing is a tool that SFAs can use to purchase food, supplies, or services with a value of $10,000 or less. This method is generally used for occasional activities such as harvest of the month, sampling new products, trying out a vendor, or as we all know, emergency purchases. When using the micro purchase method of procurement, SFAs do have to purchase equitably amongst qualified suppliers. And you can only use the micro purchase method when you as the SFA consider the price to be reasonable. The other type of small procurement is the small purchase procurement, and its threshold is $30,000 or less, or $250,000 for charter schools, unless your local SFA has more stringent requirements. You should always check with your district to make sure that they don't have more stringent requirements. In all cases, state law requires that 3 quotes be obtained. If you're obtaining multiple quotes throughout the year for the same items, and the total amount is going to exceed $30,000, the SFA must use the formal procurement method. If you decide to use the small procurement method and obtain quotes, just remember that the SFA director is responsible for ensuring that the total over the year does not exceed $30,000. The state has some recommendations for purchasing. Although not mandatory, public entities seeking contracts for purchases of material and supplies for less than $1,000 should consider, as part of good public policy requiring governmental accountability, they should obtain at least 3 verbal quotes. For purchases less than $10,000, but greater than $1,000, prudent practice does suggest obtaining at least 3 written quotes, though the law does not require it. So let's start talking about the micro purchase method. There are several benefits of the micro purchase method. Micro purchasing allows districts to react quickly to changing markets and urgent needs. It's also useful to small districts where purchases may fall under that $10,000. Before contacting a supplier to make purchases, districts should perform market research to understand what a reasonable price is for the product that they're trying to purchase. Micro purchases may be especially useful when purchasing local products. Perhaps a district is committed to purchasing a variety of products seasonally and has built that flexibility into their menu to enable the district to purchase small quantities of produce when local farmers might have a surplus. The micro-purchase method is not to be used to avoid proper procurement. If a micro-purchase procurement is used several times in a year for the same product or products, it's likely that the small purchase method should have been used. The state of Louisiana has waived the small procurement threshold, the state small procurement threshold, when purchasing local agricultural products. You can use the federal small purchase threshold for procuring local agricultural products for contracts valued at less than $250,000. So you have a lot of flexibility in trying to purchase local products for your students. And across the country, there is an increasing number of child nutrition program operators that are sourcing local food and providing complementary educational activities that emphasizes food, nutrition, and agriculture. Some of the benefits of this is, of course, supporting the local community. It can lower school meal program costs, increase meal participation, and reduced food waste. Some great resources are out there to help you navigate the procurement of local foods and are available on the Farm to School website on the resource page. And you'll see the link to that page right on that screen. We do suggest that keeping a printout or saving a copy of the Procuring Local Foods for Child Nutrition Programs Guide is a wonderful resource, and it's good to use. This guide helps you navigate the procurement rules correctly, and it includes menu planning basics, fundamental principles of procurement, several potential sources of local products, and a variety of ways to purchase products. So the micro-purchase method, we want to make sure that the correct procedures are being followed. So remember, we said that the micro-purchases must be less than $10,000. So you want to make sure that you ask question about micro-purchases as to whether each transaction will be less than $10,000 or $10,000 or less. The second question is, were the purchase prices reasonable? We don't have a clear-cut guideline for what USDA considers reasonable. The question you have to ask yourself is, would a prudent person pay the same price as the SFA paid? For example, is $10 for a loaf of bread considered reasonable? Well, of course not. The SFA should be doing some market research before purchasing to see what is reasonable. This step must be taken to make sure the purchase is below the $10,000 threshold. And we always advise that you maintain your documentation of your research. Market research could include things like listing stores in the areas with types of products they have available, looking through local circulars, and looking on the internet for price comparisons. The final question is, based on a review of your invoices and receipts, is the SFA compliant with the use of the micro-purchase method? You can determine this by looking at the invoices and receipts and determining if the purchases were equal to or less than $10,000, if the purchase seems reasonable, and were the purchases spread equitably among vendors. The use of the micro-purchase method is one of our major findings we have on procurement reviews, because SFAs do not spread the wealth amongst qualified suppliers. Now, we do have an exception to spreading the wealth, and that would be when the SFA or a site is in a small town that has only one grocery store, and the next closest grocery store is 30 miles away. If this is the case, it should be reflected in your procurement plan that the next local grocery store is 30 miles away. Remember that purchase orders or charge accounts cannot be used as a reason to purchase from only one vendor. USDA has clarified this, and I know that there are some SFAs that do have one vendor because of charge accounts, and USDA has determined that that is not allowable. So let's do an activity. An SFA went and purchased $280 in food and supplies from Walmart in August. In September, they purchased $120 in food and supplies from Dollar General. And then in October, they went to Walmart and spent $15. And they went to Dollar General and spent $35. Is this considered compliant? Yes, it is, because the SFA did spread the wealth. Would this be compliant? The SFA made one purchase for printing applications for $2,354.78. There was no other printing purchases during the year. Would this be compliant? Yes, it is compliant because the SFA only made one purchase. If printing services had been needed later in the year, a different vendor would have needed to be used. Then the SFA had to purchase repair parts. So they went to Ace Hardware and purchased $122 in merchandise on one occasion during the 1920 school year. They went to Chandler's 11 times for a total of $1,456. Would this be compliant? No. The SFA did not spread the wealth equitably, either in the number of purchases or the value of the purchases. So would this be compliant? There are only 3 stores in a small town. The SFA had 20 purchases from store A with a total of $1,098. Then they went to store B and had 12 purchases for a total of $1,456. And at store C, they had 6 purchases for a total of $1,657. So would that be compliant? Yes, they did spread the wealth. Now we're going to look at small purchase procurement. Of course, that's commonly called quotes. It gets a little more complicated because the thresholds are different depending on the type of SFA and in the limits that are imposed by the state and your local SFA. The federal's purchase threshold for small purchases is $250,000 or below. And remember that in Louisiana, charter schools also have the $250,000 threshold. For all other SFAs, the state small purchase threshold is $30,000. But you really need to make sure that you discuss with your administration what their small purchase threshold is. I've been surprised at how many had a much, much lower small purchase threshold than the state does. And it does vary by local agency. Like I said, small purchases are commonly called quotes. And when you're doing a small purchase procurement, you have to provide vendors with specifications. And I strongly encourage that you provide them with written specifications. There must also be clear and accurate descriptions of any technical requirements, such as delivery dates, times, etc. And when you're purchasing unprocessed agricultural products, the Buy American requirements do also apply to small purchase procurements. Now, USDA requires that quotes be obtained from at least 2 sources. But the Louisiana revised statute states that 3 documented quotes are required for purchases between $10,000 and $29,999. So which do we have to follow? We always have to follow the stricter. So 3 documented quotes are required. During a procurement review, the reviewer